Welcome back to E! News. As promised, this week's box office biggies. Coming in at number 5 was Les Mis, followed by Argo, Wreck-It Ralph, and Twilight. And then number 1 was The Scarlet Letter, bringing in a whopping $10 million. It did not come as a shock. This highly anticipated film opened up last Friday after the premiere in LA took place the night before. E! News was able to get an exclusive inside look at the film, as well as interviews with 2 of Hollywood's hottest actors on the red carpet, giving their opinions on what made the film so red hot. This movie is an interpretation of Nathaniel Hawthorne's novel written in 1850, set in the Puritanic society of New England. The book's main character is Hester Prynne, who is sentenced to wear an A on her bosom because of a sin committed with Reverend Dimmesdale and her, which ultimately led to the conceivement of their daughter Pearl, who is a wild child and has a very, very unique personality. Hester's ex-husband, who had thought to be dead for the last 2 years and also sent Hester to live by herself in this new land, were all brought to life through this great major motion picture. In Puritan society, religion was the law, and they believed in predestination. This society is extremely flawed and is definitely shown through Hawthorne's work. Dimmesdale, the beloved reverend and father in the so-called elf child, kept his secret for 7 years, until he finally revealed the Scarlet Letter he had been hiding all this time shortly before his death. Chillingworth made his mission to find the man involved in the scandal and soon becomes a leech to Reverend Dimmesdale, hoping to find out who the father was, since his wife, Hester, would refuse to tell him. This movie brilliantly includes the majority of the book scenes and event. Enough of this, though. Let's just go straight to the first Scaffold Scene, which again is an E! Exclusive inside look.
Make way, good people! Make way in the King's name!
Woman, speak the name of your child's father.
I shall not speak, and my child must seek a heavenly father. She shall never know an earthly one.
Townspeople, she will not speak. Wander strength and generosity of a woman's heart, she will not speak.
This woman has brought shame upon us all. She ought to die. Isn't there a law for it?
It will burn in her heart.
Who is this woman, and wherefore is she set up here to public shame?
Yonder woman is a wife of a married man. She was sent over here by her husband. Nobody has seen husband for 2 years. She, adulteress. Out.
Aha!
Wow, if that does not make you want to go see the movie, I don't know what will. Here now, as promised, is an exclusive interview with Katie and the 2 famous actors, Kearney and Cara, giving their inside scoop on what made this interpretation of Hawthorne's book just so red hot. Katie?
Thanks, Emily. Here's me at Kearney Cassidy, played Hester Prynne, and Cara Giles, who played Roger Chillingworth. You guys look great. Seriously, this is just one scene from the movie, and I already have chills down my spine. I cannot imagine how difficult it must have been for Hester to stand up there alone, holding her child. Now, Hester was put in front of the public as a sin for her sinful actions and for the Puritan beliefs. What's your opinion on the situation?
I felt a bit sorry for Roger Chillingworth during the first Scaffold Scene. He had just arrived from being held in captivity to the Massachusetts Bay Colony, only to find his wife, Hester, suffering public shame for committing adultery. He has several options in which to react, but he chooses to keep quiet by signaling to Hester as he put his hand to his mouth, which was his way of telling her to be quiet and not say a word about who he is.
I feel like the Puritans are kind of crazy with their belief system, and I feel like humans as themselves are imperfect, and that everyone makes mistakes. And Hester was punished so harshly, even though she had no intent of hurting anyone. And with one mistake, the Puritans made her a social outcast, even though half the town most likely committed some other sin similar to hers, or even worse. For example, Dimmesdale is looked up to so highly in society because he's a reverend, but he's committed the same sin as Hester, and Hester is looked on so negatively. This is Hathorn's way of pointing out the flaws in Puritan society.
I know if I was Hester going through this situation, I would be a complete mess. Crying, hysterical, it would be awful. So, Kearney, what was going through your head as you were portraying Hester in the scene?
Well, the whole scene is so emotional, and I tried to focus all my energy onto Hester's emotions. I can't even imagine the embarrassment and anxiety she was going through. What I've inferred from the novel, though, is Hester was not the type of girl to be up there shaking and sobbing. She was very strong, and she handled herself with so much dignity and grace that she fooled all the townspeople into thinking she was quite calm standing up there.
What about the Scarlet Letter? Why is it so beautiful, and yet it means a sin?
The Scarlet Letter is physical evidence of Hester's sin, and because it was a sin of passion and not evil, the letter was created through love. And the letter is so elaborate to represent the passion involved in this sin.
That's very interesting. Now, Cara, we find out in this scene that Chillingworth is very secretive. Why do we get the sense that he's creepy and kind of, disturbing?
Well, Chillingworth and Hester are married. If I came back from a 2-year trip and saw my wife standing on a scaffold in front of a town holding a baby that isn't mine, let me tell you, I would be pretty mad. I think from that point on, Chillingworth changes and ultimately turns evil, devoting his life to finding out who destroyed his marriage. This devotion he now has transforms him into a leech, sucking any information he can get from Dimmesdale, his host, in hopes of finding out all he can and to be able to solve the mystery and to satisfy his revenge.
I have a bad feeling about this man. I feel like he's going to start trouble later on. There's not much talking going on in the first Scaffold Scene overall, but you guys did a great job portraying your characters. How did you do it?
I just had to think about what would have been going through Chillingworth's mind at the time. I wanted to portray Chillingworth as an innocent and naive man, but with a clear dark side lurking. After all, he hasn't done anything yet.
I spent so much time studying and analyzing the novel in preparation for this movie, and because there was nearly no lines for me, I tried to focus on portraying the strength of Hester. Though she was probably experiencing much pain and fear and embarrassment, she kept her head high. She obviously has a deep love for her daughter's father in order to keep her from telling the whole town who he is. This indicated to me how much she cares for him, but also how messed up the relationship is because she had to stand up there on the scaffold without a confession then.
Kearney, I know that having a baby with you while acting must have been difficult. Pearl seemed to be said as a form of the Scarlet Letter. Do you agree with this statement?
I don't have any kids of my own, but it was probably one of the most difficult tasks is having a little baby during the filming the scene. The baby would not stop crying, but yes, I couldn't agree more. Hathorn really portrays Pearl as another embodiment of Hester and Reverend Dimmesdale's sin because she is the production of it. That's why I also believe Hester soon realized standing on the scaffold that when she tries to cover up the Scarlet Letter, she had to hold her tight to her bosom. She was only displaying another symbol of her sin, and there was no escaping it.
Yes, it's heartbreaking to think about your own child whom you love so much. At the same time, you bring so much pain. Another key aspect of the movie that I picked up on just watching the short clip was the amazing scenery going on. The incorporation of iron in the staging was so carefully thought out, I felt like. Do you have any comments on this?
I know that our director was just brilliant. He really believed that after studying over and over the text, just how important the symbolism of iron was for Hawthorne, and he really tried to emphasize this in the movie.
I believe the iron was a reoccurring symbol in the Scarlet Letter for evil and imprisonment, as well as it is in the society that held Hester back. I also know that the staging, in particular the scene of Scaffold 1, was very particular because, as you saw, Dimmesdale was standing on the balcony looking down at Hester and Pearl. It's very important that we were not on the same level as they do later on in the book. Chillingworth is watching from afar in the scene, and there are many people watching, only Hester and Pearl alone.
Yes, gradually as the story progresses, Chillingworth gets closer and closer to Hester and Dimsdale. But for now, in the first scaffold scene, it was important that he was looking from afar.
Good job, you guys. You really did your homework in high school on the Scarlet Letter. I have a feeling this movie is going to be just as big as the Twilight series. The whole storyline is twisted and it keeps you on your toes. I'm predicting some major awards to go with this production. Thank you for your time. I hope you both enjoy the rest of the night. You deserve it. Now back to you, Emily.